What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about review scores for God of War Ragnarok. And I want to talk about a couple things to keep an eye out for, / be prepared for, warned for, all of those different things. Because obviously the reviews are coming very, very soon, right? I believe they drop on Thursday. So this is the week of reviews, no matter, which day it is. We're going to get some numbers and we're going to get some opinions. Now, I want to kind of start there just as like a general thing, and this is like one of the things I do want to talk about very briefly, is, just make the decision based off of yourself. I talk about this so much on the channel, but ultimately, review scores, are they okay? I mean, I guess to some people, I personally don't like review scores, so I don't give out numbers myself, but you shouldn't have other people in the press, online influencers, whatever. You shouldn't have them make your decision for you. It's your money. Do what you want with it and spend it on God of War Ragnarok or don't spend it. I just wouldn't make the reviews the be-all, end-all. If they want to be a part of what your opinion of the game is, that's totally fine. But obviously, I try to warn people against having reviews mean everything, and that includes even a game that we expect to be game of the year. I mean, honestly, we kind of expect, high 80s, low 90s from this game. If it gets like an 84, I kind of feel like that's a disappointment to many, many people. So, we expect high scores, but just, obviously be cautious and make your own decision on it. Two warnings for you that kind of have to do with each other that I find pretty interesting. So obviously be careful when the reviews drop about spoilers, if you're not, up for spoilers. And the reason I say that is kind of two things on opposite sides. So it sounds, from what I've gathered by looking at things online, now I don't know if it'll end up 100% being this, but we'll see. It seems like this could be a Last of Us 2 type situation where they are limited, very limited, in terms of what they can show and talk about. Also, maybe you can take it as like I'm jabbing at The Last of Us. I mean, in a way, it makes sense if there's massive spoiler kind of story decisions that happen in this game at certain sections. Like The Last of Us, they cut it off, and that's a good example. I want to go back to that as a warning. The Last of Us, they cut it off at the Ellie parts, so you couldn't talk about or you couldn't show the Abby parts. You could only talk about sections of the game, which, by the way, I do think is a pretty garbage mentality, or I think it's a garbage kind of guideline to do a review, give a score if you're like an IGN or whatever, or make a 30-minute, 20-minute video if you're a YouTuber, and you're only allowed to talk about 30, 40, 50% of the actual game. You're not allowed to even mention other things. So, that's, on one hand, it's a warning that I don't think we're going to get the full picture. Like, you could see the scores. They may be a 90. They could be an 82. They could be a 96. But if they're only allowed to talk about 30% of the game, you really don't get a grasp of why it is a 90, which actually hurts the reviewer, I think. It actually hurts them. But again, that's something just to be kind of careful of. Now, on the flip side of things, the game is out in the wild, right? People have gotten the game early. Retailers are just selling it because they don't care. There are going to be some reviewers, ultimately, that don't care. Now, they're probably going to get blacklisted from Sony and won't be able to do this in the future, but on the flip side, I do think with the review, there's going to be some things that kind of slide through. So it's going to be interesting to watch, and I don't know how much I'll actually do it myself, but I'm sure other people online will, where it'll be interesting to see if there is a guideline, right, that you're not allowed to talk about certain things, but maybe one or two reviewers doesn't get that memo and does talk about those things, right? So all of a sudden there are some spoilers into the reviews. I know I saw some people warning about like the thumbnail, like watch out for thumbnails for videos. So on one side, while you have to kind of be cautious of review scores or reviewers because they may not even be able to say why they gave the game the score that they gave, and then on the other side of things, there could be people that, again, don't care or didn't get the memo or whatever. I mean, we saw that Twitter user, right, about a week ago that just somehow synced, the uploads of pictures and was just uploading pictures completely by accident, and they took them down, but were just uploading pictures throughout the journey of God of War Ragnarok for them. So there are some people that just flat out don't pay attention or make mistakes or however you want to do it or say it, and it's going to happen. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and I'm really not going to get too far into it. I'm not going to start this. This is not like a console fanboy kind of thing. We're not doing this in this video or actually in general on my channel, but you do have to be careful for these accounts or these channels or these websites or whatever, and I'm not singling anybody out, but this idea that they get it so early. And this goes back to kind of reviewer mentality. We've talked about this before on other videos. Look, factually, these are people that got the game 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead of time. There's a reason they got it ahead of time. The reason could be that Sony likes them. The reason could be Sony knows they're going to give positive feedback. It could be because they're just good reviewers or they're big. We had the whole fiasco on Twitter come up with the Escapists where they, had stopped requesting reviews from Sony because they didn't like their tone, and that blew up into a big thing. And again, ultimately, I've talked about this before in terms of how I think kind of the mentality of reviews and companies work. I'm not going to get into it too much here, but it's just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying that like if the game comes out and it gets a Metacritic of 92, that it got a 92 because Sony paid them all off or whatever, thing like that. I'm not saying that. But you do have to keep in mind, like, is there a reason why, did they leave out some negatives that we find negative about the game? Did they leave that out on purpose? So on, so on. There could be more to it. Ultimately, that really, like, again, without making too big of a deal about it, and I'm not going to, it goes back to the first thing I talked about. That's all. Make your own decision. Okay, have reviews be like a part of the decision, but don't make reviews be the entire thing. And I do think a lot of my audience, understands that. But for new people as well, we gotta kind of bring people up to speed sometimes as well. But no, that's what I would say. Just be prepared for. Honestly, I'm expecting kind of if I'm gonna give like a review score prediction. Without knowing, I didn't look this up like ahead of time. I don't remember. I did definitely see it at the time. I don't remember what God of War 2018 got. I'm going to say a 92 is going to be my prediction for the Metacritic, which is just the average for that. Now, again, like Skill Up and things like that on YouTube, they don't factor into the Metacritic. I understand that. So I'm going to say a 92 on Metacritic. So we're at the final stretch. Again, be cautious of spoilers because, again, I really get the sense that they're not going to be able to talk about a lot of stuff, which is pretty stupid, and I'm not really in support of that. But at the same time, there could be spoilers that come from it as well because maybe some people just, again, don't care about it. And they won't be doing it next time, but it doesn't really matter about next time. It matters about, where we're at right now. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you want to follow or support me anywhere else, all my social media is in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.